This is the Art Beauty Podcast where we tell the real truth about the fake shit. Hi, everybody. I'm Amber. And today, my fabulous guest and friend of the show is Marisa Auciello. She is a fragrance expert, and we are going to be talking all about scent styling and also get some spring trends. Because let's face it, we're at the end of March. For me, it's basically summer. How about you?
Absolutely. I am ready for it. And the easiest way for me always to do that and kind of change my overall mood is through fragrance. So I'm excited to tap into that today.
I love that. I feel like for so many of us, fragrance is that like final thing that we put on. It sort of is become less of like an accessory and more of like a key component to how we're feeling. And I loved on the last show, you really introduced us to like this idea that you can have a signature scent, but you can also like play around with scents, and that you should, just the same way as you like change up your outfits, change up your fragrance. So I've really taken that, and like when I'm going on date night, I wear something maybe out with the girls, a different
Good.
fragrance. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I love that. I'm always about advocating for a fragrance wardrobe. So build it out and make sure you have something for every occasion.
I love it. You must have like, do you have 1,000 perfumes?
You know what? I keep a very edited assortment only because I am fortunate enough to work in a showroom of hundreds of bottles accessible to me every day. So
Right.
because we have that for the weekends, how many do I really need? And I kind of fudge it and I make sure my husband has a nice curated assortment too that I absolutely tap into. So between the two of us, we probably only have like 40 bottles in the house, which for a quote unquote fragrance expert is quite limited, I think.
Which is fair, right? Because if you saw all the beauty items here in my house, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I could open a Sephora. But so yes, I guess 40, which does sound like a lot, is, for a fragrance expert, maybe an edited down version. I was gonna say, like, what are some of the ones you're wearing right now? But if there's 40 of them, maybe that could take a while.
There's a lot, and I have to tell you, I don't tie myself to any one, which is why there's never a quote unquote dent in any of my
Okay.
bottles, because I'm always on to my new baby. I really, have working in the industry, I'm always promoting something, so I get really engulfed in that in the moment. But I will share definitely some things that are worth noting at the end of the segment for spring so that we can get ready for that.
Love that. Okay, so let's talk about this idea of scent styling. What is
Yeah.
it? Why do we need to care about this? How do we do it? Give me the goods.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's something I started talking about a couple months ago from a personal point of view of like, let's take a celebrity and let me scent style them, right? What would this celebrity wear? What would be in their home? That whole bit. And this concept is kind of taken off in the sense that I think it brings it all back to this idea of having a fragrance wardrobe. And I think people have been on this pursuit of a quote unquote signature scent. And that's one of the main things customers will say to me is I've been on a 10-year journey trying to find my signature scent. I was like, well, let me stop you right here because I don't think you need one. It's like as if saying there's only one best friend out there for you. I think,
Right.
don't put yourself in this hole of being limited to finding the most perfect thing, but instead have a perfect thing for that occasion. So that
Sure.
was the concept of kind of, you can almost create an alter ego of sorts, right? So scent style yourself tonight. If you want to be like a badass and you want to wear a leather jacket, you're going to wear something maybe with patchouli in it or leather or smoke. And then on the other side of that spectrum, you're going on a first date or it's a girls' night and you want to be flirty and cute, you're going to go for a fruity floral. So that in a very simple sense. But then recently, some articles have been coming out where this scent styling concept has gotten really driven and targeted towards home. So people are saying scent style your home. And that kind of the reasoning behind that is people are realizing that fragrance is really tied to our well-being and our emotional state, which translates to fine fragrance that we put on ourselves as well as home fragrance. And that all goes back to, I love talking about the olfactive memory, and essentially that the sense, our sense of smell is tied to our limbic system, which is directly correlated to our fight or flight, to our emotional state, all of that. So everybody knows lavender is very common. You and I spoke about that last time. You have a very personal story tied to that. But moreover, it's my job to spray things and let people smell it. And always, like 9 times out of 10, their immediate response is, "This reminds me of." They never
Right.
just tell me what they think of the fragrance. It's what it reminds them of. So
Right.
we all get very hung up on. For me now, anytime I smell anything with orange blossom in it, it takes me back to a trip I went on to Marrakesh in Morocco, just because that was such a fragrant, like olfactory experience for me that I can't unsee it or unsmell it.
Right.
And
Oh,
for like it
amazing.
transports you.
Amazing. Yes.
So
Yes.
So this idea is kind of make your home, take it to the next level. Not only to make it look beautiful, but make it be the olfactory experience that you want to portray for yourself and your guests.
So I am like obsessed with home fragrance. One, because I live in New York City and I have neighbors who live close by, and if somebody's cooking Brussels sprouts across the hallway, you know it. Sorry, right? We don't live in standalone houses. So I really do think like I'm always surrounding myself with candles and whatnot. But when you're talking about this sort of scent styling, I feel like I really saw that trend hit off in hotels. Right,
Hmm.
where hotels now will have a signature scent. And I was recently at a doctor's office, and an aesthetic medical doctor, and she has a signature scent. Um, I guess, when it started with hotels, why do you think the importance of that is?
Yeah, I mean, because they know it creates an environment. So it's an environment and it's a memory. So I mean, for me, and I think one of the most iconic, if you've ever been in a one hotel, they have a very distinct smell. It's kind of similar to Lavabo Santal 33 scent profile. It's very luxurious and it's recognizable. So it kind
Right.
of just like if you remember, maybe your aunt or your grandma or your best friend growing up, their house had a smell.
Yeah.
It was comforting. So I know a lot of people who actually travel with small travel candles or a vial of their husband's perfume, like people who have anxiety of being away from home or family members need that sense of smell. It's crazy what it does, but the hotels were doing it to create a complete 360 environment and lifestyle ambiance. And I think they nailed it. And people now are like buying the candle of the fragrance of the one hotel because they want to bring that luxury back home with them and transport themselves on on a vacation. But I think, you were asking why would your doctor do it, right? And I think it's another added layer of branding, right?
Yeah.
So what do we all stand for? Even the fragrance I choose to put on each day is absolutely me making a statement on what I want to express about myself that day. So
Right.
I think it says a lot.
I love that you've just unpacked so many things. And I think that there are so many of us who I mean, will do that candle and who like that luxurious feel. And let's be honest now, candles these days, like a really good fancy candle, they are not inexpensive. That
No.
is, and it can be some of the big ones can be like an investment purchase.
Yes.
Um, so when it comes to scent styling the home, do you have any tips for how we can begin? Is it better to go with candles? Is it better to go with diffusers?
Absolutely. I definitely have some personal takes on this. I mean, I think that let's start with the bedroom because I think that's
Okay.
a good place to start. I have like an oil diffuser there. So
Mhm.
it's an electric diffuser. I use Vitruvi. I think it's a really beautiful brand that has very sleek vessels, but then also their fragrances are quite good. So like this one is literally called Sleep. That is one of their accords. So it's an essential oil blend and it
Okay.
has things like lavender in it. And this is like a must. It absolutely is very zen. It makes just a light humming noise in the background, but the fragrance is what sets the tone for me to like wind down. So I love that because we're not going to light a candle as we go to sleep. So
Yeah.
highly recommend the oil diffusers for the bedroom.
Oh, wait, and
Um,
who made the one that you like?
Vitruvi,
How do you spell that?
Vitruvi. I personally bought mine at Blue Mercury, so I know you can get
Okay.
them there. That's a very cool brand. And then, in addition to, or in place of, my other favorite thing to do, which I'm sure I told you last time because it's hysterical, but I use a beautiful fragrance called Nurture from Abel. This is a very nurturing fragrance that I definitely spray on my pillow, which is, very bougie to do with a $200 perfume. But moreover, I spray my dog's dog bed with it each night. And it's the only thing that gets him to crawl into his bed and go to bed. So even works on dogs that they have this olfactive sense.
I love that your dog is getting a $200 perfume spray bed
Ridiculous.
down. And
It's
then
ridiculous.
and that was the one that was safe for pregnant women, correct?
Exactly.
I'm
That was the one
remembering.
designed for pregnant women. But I said we can all use some calming in our life. So I'm not limiting myself to using it or my dog for that matter.
I absolutely love that. And so, it made sense too, like the oil diffuser, because candles you don't want to leave up and running. It's funny. Sometimes I'll go to like a friend's home during an event and they'll have like a candle in the bathroom. As a woman with long hair, candles can be tricky in like places like on a toilet seat.
Anxiety. It's
Anxiety.
anxiety.
I'm
I
like,
can't handle it. No.
Yeah, and I also grew up in a wood house, so you know, my dad was like always no to candles, but I like to light a candle, but I think that you're right. The oil diffuser, that's something that's going probably in terms of creating like a scent environment that's going to be running, you know, 24/7.
Precisely. So then you get your other room. So the kitchen's the other one that I think you have to be careful about. When you're cooking and you're eating, you know how tied our sense of smell is to that whole
Right.
experience. So you don't want to clash anything. So I try to keep the kitchen quite simple, and I'll go with a cleaner scent profile. Obviously, anything citrus makes sense. You're in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Or something really hyper clean, like Juliette has a candle range and diffuser range called Not a Candle or Not a Diffuser. And the whole concept is that it's this like light, ethereal, almost musky, fresh laundry vibe. That is
Mm.
something that's just like, effortless to throw in your kitchen. So I do always, I'm conscious, especially when I have company, to keep things, simple in the kitchen. But I think a room that you can have fun with is always like the living room or the den or the bar or the basement. These are the places where you can really set a mood and a vibe. So, for me, I love like the more woodsy and exotic and spices and things like that. And then for other people, they love that sugary, sweet, candy, gourmandy flavors. So I think you can have fun in each room because depending on how big the candle is or depending on how big the diffuser is, they have a different reach of projection. So that all ties into it, of course. And then there's linen sprays and room sprays, which I also love. So I'm that girl who's like literally running around the whole house with a linen, room spray right before company comes, because that works the best. When you put fragrance on fabric, it's not going anywhere.
Right.
That's a really quick way to get an instant refresh.
So is there one that you like? I mean, I love whenever I get an expert, I'm like, what do you do?
Yeah. So for the room sprays that I can recommend, one is a brand called Dr. Varanjes. So it's Branjes. I know they're available at like Bergdorf Goodman, Neiman Marcus. It's a gorgeous brand out of Florence, Italy.
Mm.
They have the most opulent, stunning diffusers that have serious projection and reach. So you can get whatever size works for you. But I happen to love their room spray. It's beautiful. So I keep it out like on my coffee table with my coffee table books. And then I go crazy with the spray. So it's the ginger lime. This is the one that I use. Ginger
Oh,
lime is very
yum.
fresh and zesty. And then I also love for the bedroom, I use the Not a Perfume again, Not a Perfume room spray from Juliette Has a Gun because it's just not overpowering.
Gotcha. Yeah, because you don't want something that's like too wild there. Or actually, maybe you do.
Maybe you do. It depends. So
To each their own. I'm not going to tell you how to scent style your house. That's on you.
exactly.
Okay, so are there any things that we need to know about, like, you know, when we're thinking about fragrance, certainly something we're breathing all the time. When it comes to scent styling our home, are there things that we should be kind of avoiding or, you know?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So a couple things with candles, I think mostly people have the concerns around the candles. So one thing to note is, people always ask, what's up with the wick trimmer? Do you really need to do that? You do. If you're gonna burn a candle, definitely never let it mushroom at the top. Whenever
Yeah.
after every burning, you want to trim it because you'll see the difference. If you keep that mushroom and you light the candle, there's going to be a line of black soot going right up. It's going to go into your vents and it's going to go into your ceiling, and you'll actually eventually build up some black residue on your walls and ceiling. So absolutely use a wick trimmer when you're doing that. If you want to go a step further, I keep looking because I have one on my desk here, but I was gifted one for Christmas. It's very trendy on TikTok right now. These candle warmers, they're on Amazon. You can get them anywhere. I first saw it on Sir Candleman's TikTok, who's this fabulous TikToker about candles that I adore. And it's a candle warmer, and you put your candle underneath this little heated lamp, and it, diffuses the fragrance and it melts the wax without actually burning the wick, and there is no chance of soot whatsoever.
Whoa. I've
Yes.
never heard of this.
Yes.
And
So
where do we get a candle warmer?
honestly, they're like a new trend. So the only
Okay.
place I've been able to get my hands on one is Amazon at the moment. I wish I had
Oh,
somewhere
don't you don't have to
specific.
whisper it. I love
I,
Amazon. We're Amazon
Good.
friendly here.
I
Yeah.
don't have anywhere sexier to send you at the moment, but go to Amazon and check out the candle warmers. And I love having it on my desk because it actually projects a little bit of warmth, a little bit of light. It's an absolute mood, and it preserves the candle much longer. You don't go through the candle as quickly either.
Wow, that's great to know because we were just saying before, like they can be very expensive. Um,
Exactly.
I want to talk fragrances for spring. Tell us a little bit about like what you're seeing right now because for me, like I said, end of March, like it's summer. Once we get to March, I'm like, it's basically summer. I'm ready to go.
Yes,
Let's do this.
let's
But
do
let's
it.
focus on spring, right? It's like a time to come out again. What are some of the scents that you're finding are really popular?
Yeah. So, right now, category wide, this niche artisanal moment is happening where people are wanting brands that are not so widely known. They're moving away from the designer Prada, Gucci, Dior, and
Right.
they're really looking for something more obscure and unique and thoughtful. So, that is where, I really spend the bulk of my time. And some of the brands that, I think I've shared with you, and I know that you've really liked, one is Wilhelm Parfumery. It's just gorgeous. I mean, you guys have to see the packaging to understand the beauty of it alone visually. And then when you get into the fragrances, there's two that really stand out to me that I would recommend you check out for spring. One is Dear Polly, which I'm holding here now. And this kind of ties in the whole olfactive thing too. So this fragrance was created as a love letter in a bottle. So Jan Wilhelm, the founder, created this juice for his wife for when he would have to go travel for work. And he said, "You'll smell this and we'll think of each other," because he put all of her favorite things in there. Black tea, that's what she drank each morning. Green apple, her favorite snack. So it's this aromatic, tart, really elegant, feminine fragrance that is gorgeous heading into spring. So Dear Polly is fantastic. And then from the same brand, especially as we get into the warmer months, I would suggest that you get your nose on Mango Skin.
So delicious.
Oh my God, delicious is the word. So this fragrance was inspired by Jan's time in South Africa, where he would literally pluck a juicy, ripe mango and just like, get right into it. And he just wanted to capture that. And for me, it's as if you took a ripe mango and you rolled it around in some sugar. So it is like sweet, but yummy, and dries down, very unique on each person. And I know men and women alike enjoying that fragrance. So that is worth checking out.
I have to say, I want to stop here. So when we were talking on the last podcast, which I highly recommend you listen about how to pick your scents, one of the big interesting things that you mentioned was like, a lot of these scents that people are looking for now, a lot of these unusual ones, maybe we can only get online. We did some great tips on how to buy online, but one of those was to purchase a scent sampler pack. And
Mm.
I have to tell you from that Wilhelm one, I discovered it was oh my gosh, I'm
Room
having the
service.
room service. Gorgeous, right? But what a great way to get to test out different fragrances. And it is so important to wear them, to not only spray them in the air or on that little piece of paper, but to actually put them on, because it's going to dry down differently. But thank you for that. So just a
Oh,
little side
yeah.
note that, if you're looking for these, a sampler pack is a great way to go.
Try before you buy. Do not
Yes.
blind buy a full size bottle of anything. Make sure you put it on your skin and you love it before you do that. Another pick that I love for spring is Paper Minus or Paper Personal
Mhm.
from Commodity.
Yeah.
So this is a big trend that's happening right now, not going anywhere anytime soon. But this, your skin but better. These very minimalist, ethereal, close to the skin fragrances. I can't get enough of them. I like to wear them on their own for like before bed or running errands and just like, no brainer all the time, but they're also beautiful for layering. So this is a type
Mm.
of fragrance that, will just amplify and create a longer wear for anything else that you're wearing and maybe add a little twist. So, always can make sure you smell different than maybe your girlfriend who's wearing the same fragrance. It'll add a little diversity. So Paper Minus, Paper Personal from Commodity, available at Sephora's. This is one that I could definitely recommend giving as a gift and it wouldn't offend anybody.
Gotcha. And I do love that Commodity offers this, sort of levels of scent profile, right? So it's like you've got
Yes.
personal, right? It was like essentially, I forget the specific name, but it's like small, medium, large of how far you want to project that scent, which is really cool in the
Yes.
same fragrance.
Exactly. I know that's where you can have a lot of fun with it. Like yeah, Paper Personal, the black bottle is actually my favorite. So that's worth trying too. I love that. That's kind of like my work fragrance. Like if I'm wearing a blazer, I'm gonna put on Paper Expressive because that's just like my vibe. But that is a great one. And then another brand is Thummy London. And for spring, I urge you to try Green Pearl. I have turned a lot of people onto that fragrance recently. and they are loving it. So it is this vibrant mandarin, lime, juicy, but woody at the base. And like people are like, is it masculine? Is it feminine? I don't know. They just love it. And I like it because it's a very unknown brand. So I think for the people who are really looking for something different,
Mm-hmm.
and the packaging is unique. This square, jewel tone blue bottle, and the black cap, it's magnetic, it's super luxurious. So this is exclusive to Saks Fifth Avenue right now, but again, you can start with a discovery kit, but there's some like green pearl is just delicious. And there's a couple other great fragrances within that collection. But those are some of my top picks, I would say right now for spring.
Amazing. And, just one more time, any tips for people who are looking for that, before we let you go, on great ways to sort of shop and try perfumes in general?
Absolutely. So do your research. I mean, I learned so much on fragrance TikTok, or they call it perfume TikTok. I like this website called Fragrantica. It's kind of
Mhm.
like a user generated review site where you can really hear what people have to say about it. And it breaks it down in layman's terms, and it kind of shows you all of the notes through pictures and the
Okay.
percentage of that. So it'll be like, it's this much floral, this much fruits, really helpful. And then above all else, I just recommend you, as Amber suggested, buy yourself some samples first and live with them before you invest in the full size. I'm a sucker for a beautiful bottle, so I know the temptation to buy, but I get very mad at myself if you spend this kind of money on something that you end up not even wanting to use. So find what's right for you and have fun with it. I wouldn't take it so seriously. I know fragrance can be intimidating, but definitely doesn't have to be. So allow yourself to express yourself and maybe transport yourself to a happier, more zen time through the use of perfume and fragrance.
I love this, Marissa. It is always such a pleasure to have you on. Such great information here. If people want to know more from you, if they want to learn more from you, where can they go?
I am very much on LinkedIn, but I'm also on TikTok, Instagram, but my handle is always just my name, Marisa Auciello, and I would be happy to answer any questions you guys have on any of my channels.
Amazing. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes so you can link directly to that. And of course, if you have any questions you want me to pass on to Marissa or her team, I'm always happy to do so. You can email me at hello@RPD Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at RPD Podcast. And as always, we will see you next Tuesday, probably smelling a little bit better, right?
Yes, let's do it. Thank you so much.